Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, VJR Stewart.
And I'm your co-host TD3. It is Wednesday night, November the 13th, 2024. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Men Speak. So let's give a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music, to Forest Films in our own studio for subsidizing our studio. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel. Not necessarily in that order, but make sure you get all three done. And if you're here watching the show live, invite a friend, a coworker, or a family member to come watch it with you so you guys have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. With that being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring information, leading information about the black community to the black community on social media. Well,
all
yeah,
right, folks, we have a very interesting show tonight, and we have a special guest that we will have returning to the show after a 1 year hiatus, but it will be very, very substance filled. So make sure that you get your questions ready. We will have our special guest, Kenneth Johnson, who will be talking to us about Social Security, how it works, and what you need to know. So we're gonna have an
you
interesting.
know what we need to know is how to get the biggest check out of the government for the money we paid in. That's what we
Well,
need to know.
work the longest and make the most money that you possibly can is the
That's
simple
right.
answer.
Before we die and give it all back.
Exactly, exactly. But with that being said, we're going to start off with acknowledging a couple of giants that we have lost this past week since our last show.
Mm.
Jimmy and me, we are truly losing some giants, but we will, of course, acknowledge those folks. Some of you may know, and some of you may not. So, first and foremost, we have the legendary saxophone artist Lou Sweet Papa Lou Donaldson, who became an ancestor on November the 9th, just a few days ago, at the age of 98. He was credited with being one of the first artists to bridge bebop and soul, and is also known as a pioneer in the soul jazz genre. Donaldson, writer of Blues Walk, is a member of the International Jazz Hall of Fame and NEA Jazz Master, which is the highest award that one can receive for being a jazz artist.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Donaldson, for those of you who are music aficionados and jazz aficionados in particular, we definitely like to give our condolences to the family of those who have lost this great patriarch and legend of the arts. Next, Jimmy, this is probably someone that some of you may not know her by face, but you definitely know her work. Miss Ella Jenkins. She's affectionately known as the First Lady of Children's Music. Created many well-known children's songs, such as "You'll Sing a Song" and "I'll Sing a Song." "Did You Feed My Cow?" And Jimmy, I don't think there's anybody who probably don't know this song, "Miss Mary Mack."
Oh yeah, everybody knows Miss Mary Mack.
Yeah, with the career
Play
spanning,
hopscotch.
yep, for Miss with a career spanning for more than 70 years, her accomplishments include her work being in the Library of Congress and receiving the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. She's 100 years old at the time of her passing. Our condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Miss Ellie Jenkins. The sister who wrote Miss Mary Mack is now gone, and she has become an ancestor. And last, but definitely not least, probably someone that anyone within the arts and dance in particular probably knows this face, definitely knows this name, Miss Judith Jameson, who was a luminary in the world of dance and an iconic figure in American choreography. She became an ancestor just 2 days ago on November the 11th at the age of 81. Her transition following a brief illness marks the end of an era for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, where she served as a guiding light for several decades. Her extraordinary career began when she had joined the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in the 1960s, quickly becoming one of its most celebrated performers. For 15 years, she danced with the company, captivating audiences with her talent and passion before leaving to explore other artistic endeavors, including performances with renowned ballet companies and Broadway productions. In 1989, she returned to the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater as an artistic director for 20 years. Her leadership transformed the company, pushing the boundaries of contemporary dance and ensuring its place on a global stage. She will be sorely missed in the dance community and in America, because she is not just known for folks who are in the dance industry, but just in America. She is purely a legend in American history. So, again, our condolences to those who knew her, who enjoyed her work, and who became a part of her ministry of passion. Miss Judith Jameson, Jimmy. So that is what we have today for those legends and those giants that we have lost and who are now in a better place.
Okay.
We have on the chat line, we have Miss Cousin Audrey K on the chat line, and we're definitely inviting some others to jump on the chat line, because once we get our special guest on the line, it's going to be moving extremely fast. And please, folks, do not wait until the last 5 minutes of the show to start asking questions, because once we get
questions in early,
it's going to be moving extremely fast. So why don't we do this, Jimmy, in the interest of time? What we'll do is we'll start off a little bit early with our music contest.
Okay.
Where we play an a cappella version of a song that most of you probably should know. A few of you may not. And whomever, and we're actually calculating the totals in terms of who identifies either the name of the artist or the name of the song. And whoever at the end of the year has the most points will get a special guest, for, a special treat from Black Men Speak. So what you do need to know is that in order to be counted, you need to text the response, either the name of the artist or the official name of the song, to the phone number in the lower left-hand corner, 346-666-6829. Again, 346-666-6829. So, Jimmy, whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started with our first music competition.
First song. Here we go.
On a perfect day, I know that I can count on you. When that's not possible, tell me, can you ever restore? 'Cause I need somebody who will stand by me, yeah, through the good times and bad times. He would always be right there. Sunny days, everybody.
All right, Jimmy, we've got 30 seconds as the responses come in. We'll give folks a few minutes. And I think we've already got, I think, enough to get our winner in, which the first person to get both the name and the song is Miss Tanya. Can You Stand the Rain by New Edition.
All right, this time on the ball.
She gets both points. And you got some competition, Uncle.
Yeah, I think Carol and Tanya are probably nipping right on his heels. So
yeah,
keep up the good work, everybody.
All right, good deal. All right, folks.
The outrageous answers that came in, responses.
What's that?
The outrageous responses come in.
No Lou Rawls sightings this time. But you know, we did get one funny one. Can't You Stand the Rain?
Oh, okay. It was close.
It was close. Not Can You Stand the Rain? Somebody wrote in Can't You Stand the Rain?
Oh.
All right, folks. I want to acknowledge our good friend John Williams, the CPA extraordinaire, who is on the chat line. Ms. Tanya's on the chat line as well. I want to thank them for joining. We, of course, invite those who are out there listening, get into YouTube, get on the chat line so you can ask the questions once we get started with the show. Without that being said, we're going to go ahead and introduce our special guest.
Before we bring our guest on time, I just want to do a quick shout out for John Williams. I did interview him years ago.
Okay.
And he's a great CPA, CFO type. If you need a chief financial officer for your business, I think he still does that kind of consulting work.
Yes, he does.
But a great tax guy. So the end of the year is coming up. You need to close your books out. You need to be safe. You can't go to a better guy than John, I'm telling you. So good reputation. He does great work. So I just want to give him that shout out for being outstanding at what he does.
All right, and not a good reputation, a stellar reputation.
Yes.
Very well known. All right, let's go ahead and bring in our good friend and colleague, Mr. Kenneth Johnson.
Good evening.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Sir.
Good. We want to thank you for joining us again. I know it's been a while since we've had you on the show, but since it is the end of the year, we've been promising for months that we would have you back on here, and we know you have a busy schedule, so we want to thank you for sharing a little bit of your time.
No problem.
So you can share the information with our guests to talk about Social Security. There is a lot that we can cover, so we want to ask everybody, if you have any questions, make sure that you put those questions on the chat line, and we will go with that. But for those of you who, especially some of our younger folks, and we have a lot of younger folks who they probably heard of Social Security. Some of them may be working in corporate America. Some of them, many more than probably our generation, are working as entrepreneurs. But why don't we just start off giving your background and history, telling us a broad overview of what Social Security is, when it was started, how it works, and why it's so important.
Wow. Thank you both for having me tonight. I would tell you that the closest way probably for people to recognize the age and longevity of the Social Security program is to think back during the Depression time. The president and the Congress wanted to find a way to subsidize families, and they needed a way to provide a retirement system. And so the Social Security program was founded. It continues to be funded through we call it compulsory taxes, and you know it as FICA. Everybody has seen that FICA on their paychecks, and they know that that is what it is. And now, you know, in more recent years, the Medicare program was added and is a program that gets its funding through the same means. It's been certainly a very long time, let's say more than 50 years that the program has been out there. And it is probably one of the most beneficial pension plans, if you will, because not only does it pay the worker when he or she retires, it also pays his family, his or her family. So you do the work, but if you work and your spouse stays home, when you reach retirement age, the two of you are able to draw on the same record, depending on what the available contributions have been. We could get into lots of technical things about how those benefits are calculated, but that's a little too detailed. But just know that the agency takes your highest 35 years of working, divides it, does a calculation, and comes up with the amount of money you would get based on what you paid in from your taxes. And then it determines if you have a spouse, that spouse will be generally entitled to a half of what you get. And then if you all have children still under the age that meets the criteria, then those children get 1/4. So it becomes a family program, and it's unique in that way. It pays retirement, it pays survivor benefits, and it also pays in cases of disability. So it's a very unique program, very, very much one that has been a stalwart in the African American community. And we should know how it works, and we should know what benefits are out there, and we should be becoming very, very familiar with the program and knowing that we can go directly to the website at www.socialsecurity.gov and getting correct information that is free of charge, that you don't have to pay for, and then you can become very much informed. Everyone today should already have, at 18, should have built what we call a My SSA account. That just gives you a personal access to your earnings information. It gives you personal access that if you are of age, you can get your own social security card and not go to the office. If you are on benefits, you can get a benefit verification letter. You can request a replacement Medicare card. You can file for retirement, file for disability, file for Medicare. That personal website called My SSA is tailored to you. And when you get into the system, you build a firewall around your record so no one can steal your identity or see your information. So, what would I say about Social Security? It is a very worthwhile benefits program that is funded through personal contributions collected through the tax process that every individual is entitled to. We administer payments through Social Security. We do Medicare. We do collect from Medicare. We do have some benefit connection to Medicaid, but very limited so. But we do have Medicaid and Medicare as two functions. And we also have the supplemental security income, commonly referred to as SSI.
That's good feedback. So you mentioned Medicare and Medicaid, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Can you kind of distinguish what Medicare and Medicaid are in relation to Social Security?
Sure. Every worker today that's working out there pays Medicare tax. Every worker pays Medicare tax, and Medicare is administered directly by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And it then says, okay, when you become 65, you can file for and become eligible to Medicare. You can become eligible to Part A, which is hospitalization. You can become eligible for doctor's care, which they call medical. It's Part B. It approves and it pays for 80% of approved charges. And then there's Part C, newly administered, which talks about, it's not new, but it's about the a program where you can do a Medicare Advantage plan, which gives you an insurance coverage more like an HMO, PPO situation. And then the new administration, new plan that it administers is called what we call Medicare Part D. And D is in dog, that's it says what that is. And it's a drug plan that during recent years, it was ruled that every person should have medical coverage. And if you are working and you have medical coverage, they had to guarantee that the coverage you got from your job was equal to that of the age of the federal government. And if so, you could choose between any of the particular programs that you want. It is a personal selection. And we recommend that individuals who are going to take Part D, that they study what we call formularies. And that's just a big word that says, hey, I take 3 medications and I want an insurance plan that's going to cover my medications. I have a particular health condition. I want to be sure that the primary care physician that I choose or the specialist that I choose is covered under this particular plan. So there are different things that you would have to study up, but the best place to get that information is on the SSA website at www.socialsecurity.gov.
Good deal. What and you shared a lot of information, and I want to make sure we
Yeah,
unpack.
we can dissect it.
Yeah. So, for generally speaking, because I know that you probably talked to a lot of people over the years, what would you say are the most important things about Social Security that most people don't understand or they misunderstand?
The most misunderstood concept about Social Security, I think, is that individuals tend to believe that Social Security is for a senior citizen. They think that Social Security only pays if you are old and much in a mature, at a mature age, and they tell themselves, "I don't have to worry about it because I'm not that old, and I don't have anything invested in it." But the real truth is, and the misconception that needs to be dispelled, is that you go to work. And at the age you go to work, if you're under 30 and you become disabled, they do what they call a determination for coverage. And if you have 6 out of 12 quarters, they'll entitle you. Um, you can become um, a young widower, and if you have been working, your spouse has been working, and you're in your 30s, 20s, and you pass away, your wife and children, or your husband and children, can draw on your record. So there is a misconception that we don't need to pay attention to Social Security because we are young and vibrant and we are not working.
So, is
But
that
you
like a minimum age or something like that for them to be eligible for those types of benefits, or how does?
Age is not generally the factor. It's going to be whether or not you've worked and contributed to the program.
Okay.
So, a worker, let's just say that you went to college and you got out of college and you got a good job and you were paying into the benefits program through FICA, which all workers in many states and many places are. Some people and some companies do elect out of the program by offering a different retirement system. Educators do that. They don't all pay into Social Security. They pay in Texas. They pay in some school districts. They pay into FICA and they pay into TRS. And the others, they just simply pay into the TRS system. But the way the program is designed, it says that if you go to work and you contribute solely to FICA, and you have worked enough years to have benefit coverage, and that is going to be again determined by your age, then if you pass away, your family is protected. If you're on that very same great job and you are injured, then if you can meet the definition of disability with your condition, you're covered. Not only is the wage earner covered, but if he is married and there is a marriage of a wife and young children, then you can potentially pay the wife and the children and build an income for your family. It won't necessarily replace 100% of what your actual earnings are, but it will give you a substantial amount of money to help care for your family. Um,
They get a deduction. Is it one amount that's split, or is it two different amounts paid?
no, the worker pays for ease in numbers. The worker will pay, say, they'll pay the worker $2,000,
Mhm.
and then they calculate, well, how many, if your family is involved, how many more dollars can we pay? And they say, well, the family is entitled to uh, $4,000, where they pay the worker his primary wage amount, which would be 2,000, and then they split the difference between the family. And they would say, okay, it's three additional family members, and they will split the balance of the 2,000. When each
Okay.
child rolls off, a wife will be eligible for payment if she's under 62. She's eligible for payment as long as her children are under 16. When their children reach 16, those funds that were being paid to the wife are then redivided between the age to the children remaining until they're age 18 or until they graduate high school. And then so the months go up, but the balance of the family income is maintained.
I
You
see.
know that you're getting ready to go into a new calendar year, and you know that the government has already determined that there will be a 2 I think maybe 6% increase that people will get. And so every year that the family stays on, their benefits go up.
Interesting.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier about eligibility for Social Security. And I know when we talked about this the last time, there's a, depending on what your age range is, there's a an age that you would reach where you could do a early retirement in terms of
Mhm.
Social Security benefits, full retirement, and then late retirement. But you have to work for so many years and get so many credits in order to be eligible for that payout, correct? So
Mhm. Mhm.
let's say that you reach that number of credits that you're looking for. I want to say it was 40. I forgot exactly what it was, but you have to have a
Mhm.
certain number of credits. And then they draw, which you mentioned earlier, from the highest, I forgot how many number of years uh,
Mhm.
of earnings in order to do that. So once you've reached that point where you are eligible, does it still benefit you to continue to work? Let's say if you decide to retire earlier than, for me, it would be 62, and you decide to retire earlier than that, does that lower your payout if you stop working before your early retirement age?
The current process says that a worker will be insured for retirement benefits if they have worked and earned 40 quarters of coverage. Every year, Congress sets the dollar amount you will need to earn. So, for just easy math, a quarter of coverage, let's just say it's $1,000. So, if you work and you earn $4,000, you're going to earn 4 quarters a year. If you work in and you get to your full retirement age and you've paid all of your quarters, then the system will come along and it will do a calculation. It'll look at what you earned, your highest earnings over a 35-year period, and it will calculate all of the benefits and pay you based on that number. Now, the numbers vary. Everybody's number will be different because everybody contributes at a different level, and there's that's just based on your the job you secure and the amount of taxes that you pay. But you're going to be guaranteed to be paid from your earnings based on what you earn. And so you get on the roll, and people then say, what's the earliest year I can retire?
Yes.
The earliest retirement year is age 62. Full retirement age was changed some years back to say, well, full retirement age used to be 65. Then they said, well, we need to raise that. So they gradually began raising it to 67. So now you're looking at a full retirement age that says if you retire at age 62 and you take the early out, they pay you based on the fact that this is how much you are eligible to earn. But if you retire early, we pay you just the amount less to cover for the longer period we're going to pay you. So you can continue working once you get to age 62 and decide to work early, but there are earnings restrictions that says, well, this year the average is about $22,900. If you make that amount of money in gross payments, then you can receive 12 of your benefit checks in the year plus work. If you get to full retirement age, which is 67, if you get to full retirement age today at 67, you can work continually and make any amount of money with no restrictions or any withholding of payments from you to cover for your overage for working. It's easiest to say that a worker is going to be entitled to receive Social Security at its earliest age based on retirement at 62. But then you also have to remember you can become disabled. People don't plan for disability, but Social Security is there as that leverage of support underneath you. And it says that if you've worked and paid in quarters 5 out of the last 10 years, we'll insure you for disability. And if we make you if the medical evidence finds that you're disabled, that disability payment will be paid to you at the same rate as if you were fully retired at your retirement age, based on what your earnings are at that time. And then again, those benefits go up. And then again, If you have a young family, it will pay your family and children in many instances. If you pass away, the system says, if you've contributed enough, we will then pay your family, wife and children, what we call survivor benefits. So it's just a continual process of protection for your family. We misunderstand it because we tell ourselves, oh, I don't want to pay FICA. They take all the money out of my check. And I don't know FICA and I don't like her and I don't want to get none of my money. But the real truth is that FICA is there to protect you. And the reason that it's compulsory is because people will convince you, depending on who you talk to, well, I don't need to really give FICA any money. But I'm sure Mr. Williams, who you mentioned on the call, can tell you there are many people who look for ways to diminish their wages and earnings to the point that they don't have to pay FICA. You can do that. But if you don't pay FICA, then you don't get quarters of coverage. And when you get to the retirement age and you have no quarters of coverage, you don't have insurance. If you don't have insurance, then you're not eligible for payment. If you did not pay the maximum money that you could have paid into the system, then the system says, well, your benefits are going to be lower. Right now, if you were to Google Social Security cost of living, it's going to tell you that we cap off your contributions to the FICA system after you reach a certain financial uh, status with your income. And so, if you, let's just say, I can't remember the exact number, and I don't have my computer on to tell you, but you can go to www.socialsecurity.gov and say, I'd like to know what's the maximum earnings limit for 2024 or 2025. And the system will say, oh, $175,000. And once you get there, FICA is no longer deducted from your payment. So if you're making millions of dollars, then after you pay that $175,000, say, then you aren't assessed FICA anymore.
Okay.
So your benefits change. There's so many things, but that's the myth. You've been conditioned to believe that you aren't going to get any. Everybody's taking from you, and I've been paying into this, and I'm never going to get. But I think the evidence will show that the next time you go into your earnings file and you go to your My SSA account and say, okay, I'd like to know how much is my benefit going to be? And then it tells you, well, when you retire, you're going to get $3,000. Well, also on that same sheet, you can go in and say, what have my FICA contributions been? You can take those total number of dollars that you paid into the system, total number that you paid in, divided by the number of dollars you get per month, and tell you how many months it'll take you to recover, get that, what you contributed. You'll find that life will show you that you're going to far exceed what you've contributed. That's why it's so important for the workforce to continue to work and for the balance of earnings to be and wages to be high, because we are now seeing times where the contributions are lower and people are living longer, so they pay out more money, but contributions are lower. So it's a matter of paying attention to the economics. It's a matter of listening to and checking for yourself. You can go on and trigger right now to your Google and say, what is the balance of the Social Security trust funds? I think when you see the word trillions of dollars, you're going to be surprised just at how much money that there is. They are looking at cost saving measures. One measure that everybody knows is they let you continue to work after retirement age. Well, as long as you retire, as long as you work, you can pay. You must pay taxes. That's not a Social Security rule. That's just an IRS rule. So the longer you work and contribute, the more safety the program experiences from earnings. There will maybe at some point in the future a time when adjustments may be need to be made because of the population and the growth and the longevity of life. But I don't know that I could say that it'll never go broke, but I think it's going to be a very long time before that happens.
Why don't we pause right there? Because I have a question about the Social Security fund and the IOUs that have been accumulated. But I guess as long as it's the treasury will pay it, I guess that's still good. But let's pause here for a second. We have our movie contest we're gonna do real quick, and then we're gonna come back and let's talk about that Social Security fund and how liquid it is.
Right. And what we're going to ask everyone to do, if you're watching right now, we're going to have our movie contest, same concept as the music contest. Once you look at the film clip, if you identify what the name of the movie is, all you need to know is the name of the movie, not the leading actor or the director or anything like that. Just the name of the movie. You'll get 1 point for that. Again, call into 346-666-6829. Again, 346-666-6829. This also gives you time in order to come up with any questions that you have for Mr. Johnson once we get back. All right, Jimmy, let's go.
They call him country, Slaughter's hitless in 4 trips. Clymer Casey in his second inning relief. This game is just as tight as a new pair of shoes on a rainy day. Casey goes into his windup. Slaughter hits a hard ground ball right at Reese, who fires it over to Jack at first. Oh my! Robinson is down. Slaughter spiked him high up on the leg, and he is down.
Damn it, Slaughter! You know what you're doing, you spiked my guy!
Get up, Jackie. Get him up, boys. Get him up.
Just stay out. The team doc will be right out. Q, next guy up, you hit him right in the head, all right?
No.
Give me up.
No, like this.
Stay down.
No, give me up. Just get him out. Just get him out. Understand? Game's too important. Just get him out. Play ball.
You a tough man, Jake.
All right. We are back, folks. So I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, but it is definitely a classic. And we do have responses that are coming in. And guess who is back on the map?
Uncle Tom.
It's Uncle Azar. And of course, he was the first one to get the name of the film, which was 42, the Jackie Robinson story.
All right.
So congratulations, Uncle Azar. You got 1 point. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a couple of questions on the chat line that we will get to. And then, Jimmy, I think you have a question as well.
Yes, I mean, we hear rumors about the viability of Social Security and how some administration have raised the fund to put into the general fund and left an IOU behind. So I wanted to, you were just starting to speak on the liquidity of the Social Security fund with trillions of dollars. Is it actual trillions of dollars, or is it a filing cabinet full of IOUs from Congress?
I'm not sure if you're trying to trap me or what in that question.
Oh, okay. Well, if you can't answer because you
but I can tell you that if you right now that the trust funds have $2.9 trillion in reserve.
Okay.
So that's how much money they've made. It is also a fact that many times if they may borrow from the fund and have to pay it back. Politicians may do that. But the trust funds themselves are making money. But if they're not managed well, what will happen?
They'll go dry.
You'll go dry. But remember, the SSA benefit is paid first by contributions. So you're contributing to that. That $2.9 trillion is in addition to the benefit amounts you collect through taxes that we pay out. So you really are dealing with trillions of dollars, and it's a lot more secure than we think, but it is not infallible.
Okay.
That fair?
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
All right, we do have a couple of questions on the chat line that I want to make sure that we address And anyone else out there who is listening in right now, make sure you jump on the YouTube chat line to ask any question you may have. First question from Ms. Tanya: does it matter the tax bracket you are in as the determining factor to how much the government deducts for your Social Security every pay period?
Your the Social Security, again, you can Google. It's about 7.6% that it collects from your pay from everyone. The rate of collection is the same. The amount you pay, of course, is based on your earnings itself, but the tax rate that it collects is about 7.8. I'm going to go ahead, just so that as the questions come in, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the cost of the COLA document that comes up, and it will tell you the dollar amount that will be collected from you, but the percentage, you're going to get this year. I told you it's 2.5, and that's how much they're going to raise all SSA and Social Security checks by 2.5%. And I want to see if I can bring up the full COLA document. And it says here that 2025 COLA, and it says everyone is paying, we collect on every employee 7.65% of your wages. 7.65% of your wages. And if you're self-employed, they collect at 15.30%. Now, your maximum taxable earnings in 2025 will be $176,100. Quarter of coverage today is $1,730. And quarter of coverage in 2025 will be $1,810, $1,810. If you continue to work beyond your, as you say, oh, I want to retire early, the earnings exemption for you in 2024 is $22,320, $1,860 a month. And in 2025, that amount will go up to $23,400, raising the monthly amount to $1,950. When you are reaching your full retirement age, that number changes dramatically. In 2024, if you're in your full retirement year, you earn $59,520 per year. And if in 2025, that number jumps to $62,160 or $5,180 a month. Your tax amount isn't different, 7.65 for employees working for another company. So your percent of collection is different, but because your salary is greater, that amount may be greater than someone else's. Because remember, everything's based individually.
Gotcha. And so that, I think, addresses the next question. Am I able to choose the deduction amount removed from my earnings? And that, of course, is based upon the ratio that you mentioned. So that would be a no. You don't determine that as the taxpayer.
Yes,
that's
you
automatically
do. That's
indexed to how much you
That's right. You do not determine that. One of the things that just in social sciences and discussions of that, consider if you were living in a time where you could choose, am I going to save money or am I going to spend? If FICA benefit was not compulsory and if it was not fixed, how many people, it's just a thought question though, so how many people would necessarily save if they were in crises and didn't choose to save because they needed the money right then? Where would they be? Which is what was happening pre-Social Security. People had money, but when crises came, they spent it, and then they had no security, thus Social Security. But I think in our community, one of the challenges that we face is that we do not pay attention to what we earn. We do not check to see whether or not the earnings that we've actually made are posted to our record, because every listener should already have their MySSA account. They should build it at the age of 18. They should track every year, have my earnings been posted by my employer? Remember, that's an electronic process. And if they misspell your name, or they um, uh, make a mistake in your social security number, then you won't necessarily get credit for your earnings. And when you do go to retire and you say, well, I work for ABC company, DEF company, and XYZ company, I don't see my earnings. Well, that's called a missing earning. And you will be responsible for contacting the employer to make sure that they can provide evidence of your earnings. Well, what should you be doing as you go? You should be being confident and sure that at the end of the taxable year, that your earnings that you made from your current employer are properly reported and recorded on your earnings file. You can do that from your home if you look and build a My SSA account. You can track it as it's posted. And if you change jobs, you can always see that the earnings from each employer are posted. They're posted combined. You should be maintaining your earnings W 2s, and you should be tracking and making sure that your numbers are right. That's critical, because that determines whether or not you have paid into enough quarters. It also means that if you, as the worker, are knowing what you get, every year you can go in and say, if I suddenly passed away, what would my wife and children get? What would my husband and children get? Those are things that as a community we don't check, but we should. We should be checking every day, and we should know. How many times have you been out on a job when you were in college and you had a great job and they paid you well? Did those earnings get posted? Um, they're going to look at all of your years of earnings, and they're going to take the highest 35 years. So, do you realize that that averaging goes on continually? And so, if you, in your first year of work, made $25,000, but you continued to work, and you could replace that year with a higher number. But what if you had a year that was a zero because you became ill? That $25,000 that you made when you were in college could replace that zero year, because we're looking for your highest 35. So it's very important for young people to start out knowing, is my earning record properly being reflected, so that I can be sure that I'm getting the coverage. Um, we see it a lot with self-employed people. You see it a lot where the law allows them to pay no taxes, but if you pay no taxes, you have no what? Coverage.
That answered another question, but there is another question I see from Ms. Tanya. Says, I see a lot of retirement age people working well into their 80s. Is that money they're making being continuing to be extracted for Social Security, or does Social Security ever end, even for older citizens who are working?
Social Security FICA taxes is an IRS decision, and it will, as long as you continue to work, you will pay taxes in America. We encourage retirement planning at SSA. And one of the things that's very important for our community to remember, Social Security has never been designed to replace 100% of your earnings. It is built on a three-legged approach. I'm going to have Social Security, I'm going to have savings, and I'm going to have investments. You have to be making a conscious decision about how you are managing your resources toward retirement. So it's very important for you to know that Social Security is one way and one third of your retirement plan, but it cannot be your sole retirement program. You must invest. You must save. You must build wealth for yourself. The program is not able to do that. It's not able to do that.
All right, I have another question. Are the payments, and I believe you've answered this, are the payments lifetime regardless of what age you draw Social Security when eligible once you've paid into the 40 quarters?
Yes, they're lifetime. Remember, people will get into this discussion, and financial planners will have a conversation with you, and they will tell you, well, we think it's to your advantage to draw your money later. You mentioned in your first conversation, you can draw at 62, you can draw at full retirement age, or you can draw at age 70. It allows you to collect within those things. The point at which you draw will determine whether you will get maximum or a lesser payment.
Mhm.
So if you come into the system and you paid in and you decide to draw 62, you're going to get less money than you would get if you had waited to full retirement age. If you draw at full retirement age, you're going to get less money. And if compared to if you just elected to leave your full retirement on the books and wait up to age 70, they'll give you 8% per year for every for waiting up until age 70. And so you see wage earners increase their income in Social Security by waiting and doing what they call collecting delayed credits.
And I think the last question that I see here, and I think you may have addressed this a little bit earlier, are small business owners held to the same rules that non-business owners are as far as how much they deduct and how long, etc.? And I believe you may have addressed that a little bit.
Yeah, when the tax laws, see, Social Security not Social Security does not set the standard. It only sets what we pay. The tax law determines what you contribute toward the tax. So if the tax law says that you're going to pay 15.6% if you are retired, I mean if you're self-employed, that's what you're going to pay. Whatever the tax code is the driving force. We just take the money that you pay in and pay you back.
Gotcha. Jimmy, I know you may have another question or two.
No, he's pretty much answered and covered it. But I think it's worth mentioning. I think you kind of covered it already. That yeah, when you're self-employed and you pay yourself, then Social Security, I mean, these FICA money is paid and deducted out of your paycheck, but then there may be an obligation for the company to match that. So in the end, you end up actually paying double what you would normally make. So if you are a self-employed contractor, paying yourself, you may end up paying more into the system than what you would if you were just an employee for someone else.
I don't know. But I believe your CPA, John Williams, might be able to tell you. I don't know that they double tax you, but that's a tax code issue that would not be SSA.
And if you were to identify one or two things that are the biggest mistakes that people make as it pertains to Social Security, whether that's figuring out the timing of when they should start taking Social Security or anything else, what would you say are the biggest mistakes or challenges that people make as it pertains to Social Security, other than being uninformed?
Well, can't get away from the informed state. I think that the biggest mistake we make is, one, we don't track our earnings. We don't know from year to year. We go out and we make a good living for ourselves, and we enjoy it, but we don't know, are we getting the earned credit for the money we make? And we don't notice it until we tell ourselves we shouldn't pay attention until we're older. So that's the first mistake we make, is that we wait to monitor what we earn. I think the second mistake we make is we do not consciously say, I want to be sure that every time I have to pay my taxes, I want to be sure that I pay my FICA. And I want to pay it perhaps at the lowest rate, but I want to be sure that I pay my 4 quarters and that I pay coverage for those 4 quarters every single year, whether I'm employed or whether I'm self-employed. I think that's the
Good
mistake
point.
we make. And I think because the other mistake we make is we are not looking at the categories of entitlement for self and family members. I think we 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 um, we disavow it because we tell ourselves we aren't going to get it until we're older. But you cannot predict when you're going to be sick and become disabled, and you cannot predict when you're going to transition. And you need to know what the coverage will be if one of those things happen. And you can control that by simply building a My SSA account, checking what you earn every year and being sure that it's properly recorded, comparing it to your 1099, or that if you do a 1099, it's going to be after John and do your net earnings from your profit, net profit from your self-employment income. You need to be sure you are monitoring and controlling your money, and it will matter who the leadership of the country is.
Let me ask you this, and I know you've probably seen all scenarios. What are the most important factors? And you actually mentioned some of them, I think, in someone making a decision as to whether they decide to take early retirement, regular retirement, or late retirement.
Whether you decide to take early, full retirement, or delayed retirement is first going to be determined by your comfort level in your living. I call that I kind of refer to it as your debt ratio. If you are out of bounds in your debt ratio, you can't expect to live on less money. That's just logical. So you really need to know that. And then you need to be aware that we're only going to pay you for the months you live, that you retire in the month you live. So an individual would say, well, okay, I expect to live, given my health, I'm going to live to be 75. Well, you might keep that in mind if you just use the timeline. If I draw at 62 to 75, I'm going to draw from that number of years, 62 to 75. If I'm going to retire at full retirement age, I'm going to draw from 67 to 75. If I'm going to wait and draw at 70, I'm going to draw from 70 to 75. Now, some people would recommend that you evaluate how much money do you give up if you leave it on the table from 62 to 70. How much money do you leave on the table, and how long do you have to live from 70 forward to recover all of the monies you could have received from 62 to 70? So that's going to be a personal choice. We do not at SSA make those recommendations. We just tell you that this is what you are entitled to, but you also should pay attention to the fact of what you give up. Nobody can predict when God's going to call his child to his bosom. So you have to really look at that from your own perspective and make that decision. We just tell you what your dollars available are. And every financial planner is going to say, well, what is your projection? What is your projection? If you wait and draw this amount of money, that's great. But that is a projection that you can only receive if you get there.
Perfect. And with that being said, we are at the top of the hour and out of time. We always run out of time, but I think that you have addressed all of the questions. An outstanding job. We appreciate you being patient with us and addressing the questions for all
Thank
of
you so
our
much.
audience tonight. And we will definitely have to have you back on in the future. Jimmy, any closing words before we close it out?
I would just say if you have more than 5 prescriptions in your medicine cabinet, you may want to take an early retirement.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you joining us. We hopefully this information has been useful for you. And of course, join us next Wednesday night, because if it's Wednesday night, Jimmy,
Certainly Black Men Speak.
good night, everyone.